Hello, good day, everyone, and you are welcome to Grief to Grace, a podcast that helps you to move from being stuck to unstuck. I am your host, Ruth Hefziba. Our mission at Grief to Grace is to create a safe space where we share stories of overcoming grief and transforming it into grace. So here we believe that through sharing and supporting each other, we can turn our darkest moments into sources of strength and hope. How are you today? I am super excited to be with you today. But before we go into today's episode, I would like to share, as usual, and introduce my book, which is A Pen That Rewrites Grief. I want to thank everyone that have been purchasing this book. And I want to believe and plead with those watching right now, and you feel you like it and you need it, you can purchase a pen that will rise grief. Are you grieving, or is there anything bothering you and you feel you're stuck and you cannot move to the next level of your life? You need this book because it's a guide, it's a sister day guide that helps you to navigate through grief or through whatever you're going through, and it takes you to the states that you'll be able to start afresh or move forward in your life. So, this book is a book through the heartaches of losses and also the healing power of grace. And I tell you, this journey has not been so easy, but it is by the grace of God we are all pulling strong. And this book is a book that I used when I was navigating grief in my most darkest period. And I tell you, it's the most of those exercises that you see there are what I used, and it was very impactful. So it is filled with reflective exercises designed to help you process your grief and also find your path to healing. For those interested in deeper and personalized support, I offer coaching classes and sessions, both one on one and in group. And these sessions provide a supportive environment which we work together to navigate your grief journey. So I told you today is a very beautiful day, and you will be so glad with it. And also you can purchase our apparels like this. This is Echoes of Life. We have grief cues. So we have a lot of them like this. Grief is a killer. We have the Bible verses, and you can customize your own with your own words, and you send it down, and it will be done in your name or in your own words as you want it to be written. And all these you can get from our website. So the you can also customize your cups and everything that you feel you need for in this journey. Stay tuned to the end of this episode because we have special bonuses for you as usual. And also remember that every active listener who stays tuned to the end receives a free gift from us. And today I'm honored to welcome our guest Nick to the house. And I'll tell you, he is a remarkable person. Nick is remarkably talented musician who is Grammy nominated, and his Grammy nominated music speaks to audience from all walk of life. His academic pursuits includes attending Harvard Extension School for Artificial Intelligence and industry of organized psychology. Despite a major fall from grace that saw him transition from being a pastor to the prison, Nick has emerged stronger than ever as a concert pianist and also a motivational speaker. So, from the young age, Nick demonstrated an entrepreneurial spirit, founding his own business, NicNac Creative. At the age of 13, his drive and determination have proven him to be an unstoppable force in entrepreneurship. As a speaker, Nick brings wealth of real world experiences and applications to each event, transforming moments of self doubt into powerful stories, successes, and his journey is a testament to the power of resilience and possibility of redemption, leaving audiences inspired and empowered. I tell you, Nick is one person that has been able to move from one journey, one stage of his life to other stages of his life, and he has featured in so many platforms, including the TEDx platforms and a lot of platforms. And I want to welcome today Nick Patton as he shares a story with us today. And I tell you, you will be glad you are here. He has so much to offer. He's going to talk to us about his personal stories, and he's also going to share some light on grief and all that it entails. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well, Ruth, and it is a blessing to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, thank you so much, Nick. I'm so excited to have you in the house today. And I know that your story is truly going to inspire a lot of persons, especially when I read your story from being a pastor to the prison. And I know sometimes people feel that, oh, they've fallen from grace and they cannot move on with all the shame and all sorts. And sometimes they want to lose their life and take it by themselves, but you've been able to pull through all these and you have been so phenomenal in your chosen career. And I am so glad that God chose you. So the next voice you'll be hearing is going to be Nick's voice and he's going to share his amazing story with us. Have a great day.
Ruth, thank you again for having me, and it is my pleasure to share a journey of grace with all of you today. You know, back years and years ago, I never thought I would be sharing a message with you that involved any type of prison. But if we go back further to the heart of the matter, my life has been inspired by grief, and the grace I've experienced throughout my life compels me to share my journey of hope now. You see, I wasn't wanted. I grew up knowing that my mom was just a bit too late to have an abortion. And in fact, I was born premature because of a drug overdose. Moving on years, my mom died of a drug overdose when I was 9. And my adopted parents purchased a piano for me, a computer for me, and also a dog. All three of those elements would go on to define the next parts of my life. The reason I share that with you is because I put my all, being a country child growing up in rural Alabama. Not a lot of other kids around at all. And my brother and I were separated. Part of me was missing. I grew up knowing that I wasn't wanted, yet at the same time, to have that finality of the loss of my birth mother sealed in me a grief, a grief that would propel into sadness, a melancholy that I would carry throughout my teen years. I would carry it on and on. And my heart was breaking. It was breaking because I didn't know who I was. I didn't understand whose I was. And I made an amazing transformation in my emotions when it came to applying my grief to music, or when it came to applying my grief to learning more about the computer and web design and getting positive affirmation for the first time in my life, receiving compliments because of my hard work. And that propelled me. That propelled me to give my all and to do my best. I would wake up before school to practice the piano. I absolutely loved that I could express myself. And I began competing one day to the next, competing. And for the first time in my life, I had some sort of success. And that was as a young teen. And in fact, I did start my own business when I was 13, just 4 years after receiving my first gift of a desktop computer. My first paid job, though, was playing piano for a small church. You see, one evening I got a phone call, and the pianist at the church was out, and they knew little Nick, little chubby Nick, played the piano. And I'll never forget, I received a paycheck of $44 for playing the piano for just one evening. And for an 11-year-old kid, $44 was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money. And I'll tell you, I realized then that although I may not have been equipped to do baseball well and soccer well and some of the other games I wanted to play, God had given me a gift in music and also a support, because people, as I have been blessed to share my talent, people have always blessed me. And I don't know, before I share the last part and kind of the rest of the story, what led to my incarceration and what's happened since, I want to stop for a moment, and I want to ask you, the listener, right now. Have you ever had a broken heart? It's not easy. It's not easy for us to have our hearts broken. But time and time again, by passionate engagement and example, others have taught me not to fear the unruly flood of life as it is lived, so often different from life as it's planned. Not to avoid the place past the bend where the flood turns into plunging falls, but to embrace it. Row toward the embattlement, as Mary Oliver says. For to turn the boat around is to live a life out of fear, not out of love. A life not worth a bent penny or even a scuffed shoe. To row back up the river is to try to exempt oneself from being acted upon by the forces that so urgently carry us all. Not towards safety, but most surely towards salvation. These are the same forces described by the religious traditions of the world, whether their histories exist in texts or rock paintings, forces with which we live in relationship, whether we like it or not. You see, my friends, the study of life has never been a field for me as much as it has been a labyrinth. Having entered into this maze of shared existence, I never truly emerge, lost in a world well beyond my comprehension or control, but whose twists and turns I follow because I must, sensing that there is somewhere hidden down a chamber I probably should avoid, but I can't. To study life, grief, is to encounter a fire, a funeral at times, the burning nest of a phoenix, and others, a river of ashes into which I wade at dawn listening for the Gayatri mantra, a crucible, a Pentecostal shout, a frog splash, awakening basho. It's the majesty of the liturgy. It's the first steps of the Hash, a Mehori war outrigger, flying across the surf, the realm of the sea god Tangora, the Delphic Pythia raving on her tripod, a carved fertility figure beneath a woman's bed in Ghana, the traces in the red clay pans of the Balgo Hills left by rainbow serpent or barking spider, the rainy slopes of Wu Tai San, where dragons fly, a Tibetan and sand mandala of 1,000 colors, days in creation, but seconds in destruction. The Library of Alexandria, the bumper sticker on an old Volkswagen van in the shape of a fish with Darwin's name imposed. Human expression, community, loss. It's a feast. It's a lament. It's a sickness. It's a hospital. It's a massacre. It can be the gale force wind behind great movements of liberation and change for the good, or it can be a theater of systemic depravity. Life can dignify human beings or degrade them beyond recognition. And what we do when we lose people dignifies them or it degrades them. All I can tell you, though, with certainty about life is the one thing that I truly know, and that's the broken heart. A broken heart led me to prison. A broken heart where I gave up trusting anyone and started trusting myself, and my own selfish ambition led me to prison, making choices I should never have made. Why? Because my heart was broken. I married the same woman twice, and life fell apart twice. You see, my friends, I can't tell you something I don't know, but the one thing I know with certainty is that even if a broken heart does not lie right now in your present, it awaits you in your future. And I hate to tell you that, but it's true. At some place, at some time, you will probably be unprepared. But in myth and ritual and theology, the broken heart is not a regrettable symptom of derailment, but it's the starting point. Hear me today, and if you're in the midst of grief, celebrate. This is your starting point of anything that actually matters. The religious imagination reveals the broken heart as the very best way and means to wisdom and growth. Even when it disrupts the dreams and the goals that inspire us, even when it overshadows the resumes we craft or we publicly present, even when it scatters the ducks we have gathered up so neatly in a row. There have been, or there will be times in all of our lives when the ducks will not line up. They scatter, they squawk, or they're devoured by a starving coyote. Yeah. Far from being distractions, these times of apparent anarchy are the most important times in our lives. And again, guys, this is an ancient idea, for it is highly likely that during such broken-hearted and disorienting times, illusions will shatter. Old ideas and attachments will be burned up. Old ways of being will dissolve. And the one person or the one thing that we thought that we could not live without will be taken from us. These are the times when we ourselves will learn compassion, the awakened heart, when the wounded, the grief stricken, themselves emerge as healers. That's what happened to me. I was so low. And when I was sentenced to 99 years, I thought that my hope was dissolved. And it took, in fact, years for me to find that light again. It took years because in the middle of incarceration, I lost my adopted mother. I lost my adopted father, and my children were adopted away from me because I was sentenced to so long that the state terminated my parental rights. These experiences are how hearts are broken and remade, how souls are forged, and how we become human beings with credible beliefs about life, faith, and existence itself. The gaps on our resume, and I've got a long one, guys, are the abysses into which we fall from time to time. And in the process, we fall into the hands of the living God. The psalmist reminds God that even if he turns in disdain from burnt offerings and elaborate sacrifices, he cannot ignore a broken and contrite heart. When we lose direction altogether, when there's no plan, when the manuscript is delayed or the child is ill, when the beloved sister or brother or wife or mother unexpectedly dies, or when we are suddenly called to go make pots or build buildings to sit with dying people, or we wind up in prison or go to Brazil, when the sheer cruelty, racism, and blindness of the world can be kept at bay no longer, but it storms through our inner barriers, making normal and productive life impossible. In these non productive times, new things are hatching, being born in the darkness. If only we don't panic. This is why it can be hard to tell our stories or to live our lives with honesty. This is why we fear or we hide our broken hearts from people. The fact is, we're not perfecting our resumes, guys, but our obituaries. We're here, we're centered around grief. And do you know that that's what I want you to think about today is your obituary. If you were to die today, what would people say about you? You know what is left unsaid in the grief you're experiencing right now. If you were to pass away today, would you put someone else into that same position? If there were words left unsaid, or if someone left too soon on their own accord, what do you need to say? What do you need to do to build the legacy you can be proud of? I had to do a lot of thinking about that. And as I left prison, I started working with a church again, and I never thought that that would happen. I never thought that it would happen. But a few years before my release, I saw a piano in a prison. I wanted to play it. I used to compete as a pianist. I made several recordings. It's what I had done. I had served God that way. But I thought it would never happen again. But don't you know, the day I left prison, I started full-time ministry at the Village Church in St. Augustine, Florida, doing their music because they saw me when I was in prison. They saw the talent God had given me, and they welcomed me with open arms. That's grief to grace. Because without grief, I never would have ended up making the choices I did. It is so important as we grieve to go through the process, to not allow it to invade us to the point that we lose ourselves, we lose our focus, and we lose our faith. We're not perfecting our resumes, but our obituaries. We are all headed to one common destination down our path. There's not a lot happening there. As Andrew Marvell wrote in his poem to his coy mistress, and that's English literature's most elegant mash. He wrote, "The grave's a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace." Looking deep into the religious traditions of the world, I learned that I can't be afraid of these initiations, these times of breaking apart, and neither should you. The soul can't grow or change without them. When the human ego or the human body experiences as traumas, the soul instantly recognizes as an opportunity to shed what is no longer needed. When the heart is broken, the soul is released from its prior constellations. It begins the ancient process of dissolution, dismemberment, and new life with the Lord. The soul rushes toward rebirth. And it's not a comfortable process for us to think about, but it's a normal one. Life did not intend for us to be inviolable. It didn't intend for us to be protected. Instead, we're to be transformed into the blood and sinews of the world. To this end and purpose, we can turn in love without fear, without ambivalence, letting the ducks break rank where they must, letting them fly where they will into the air, into the emptiness, into the breast of God, whose mighty and broken heartbeat joins with our own until the end of our separate lives, when the sound will become one and we will see that all of our ideas of self and emptiness and God were not enough. Hello. I see that we have someone chatting and saying hello. I just want to recognize them. Yes, hello there. Thanks for joining us today. As I conclude today, I want you to know that I lost everyone and everything that mattered to me in a very dark place after having experienced grief after grief from the time I was a 9-year-old kid. I became tough. I became callous. And I became double minded because I was so broken up. I'd never healed as a kid. And after going through that process now, the joy I have isn't childish, but it's childlike. And only through having a very, very hardened heart, broken with the love of God, the hope and grace extended by the Lord, but also by many other people, I would not know what it means today to truly have victory or to celebrate the amazing things that have happened. And you touched on those. I left incarceration just 2 years and 2 months ago. Since then, my life's been a whirlwind. I do motivational speaking. I also am a concert pianist going on tour this fall with the Power of Hope, Nick Patterson Live, going all over the United States. And it's just incredible. I was able to play at Carnegie Hall last year, wrote a best-selling book, and without grace, I never would have thought I was worthy enough to even try to do any of these things. Without experiencing the grace of God and the grace of others, I wouldn't have hope to share. So today, as you've heard my story, maybe you haven't been to prison. Maybe you haven't lost everyone and everything, but your heart's been broken. Someone's let you down. Today, I want you to think once again about what you can do to heal because it's real to you. Whoever just came to you, that's that person you need to forgive and you need to heal with. The other thing is there are going to be people that came to your mind when I said that about the obituary. We're not crafting our resumes, we're crafting our obituaries. Who do you want to make the biggest impact on? Who in your circle, who in your family, who in your community are your legacy people? What are you doing to intentionally share light, to share love, to share hope, and to bring them in to who you really are, your true essence that knows your victories but also your struggles? Who are you sharing your legacy with? And are you living a life of legacy? Or are you in a stuck pattern? You want to get out of that? Ruth is a coach. I'm a coach. There are coaches around. We want to help you. We want you to live the life you're called to live. And that's what it's all about. It's about realizing that when we're broken, when our hearts are broken, we have those opportunities to start over, to dream, to build new dreams, to plan, to have new goals. I did that. You can too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really, I've been like, this is awesome. Nick, when I was listening to you, I felt like crying.
Oh,
Yeah, because especially when you talked about leaving incarceration 2.5 years ago. And I remember going through your website and I saw how much you have achieved. So,
yes.
say within the 2.5 years ago till now that you achieved that much.
That's that's what the Lord has been able to do in my life. I it's amazing. And that's truly what grace is. I don't deserve that one bit. And the opportunities continue to come my way. And I think it's just because I'm so honest. I screwed up. I did. And I allowed the things of this world to totally sway my mind.
Yeah.
And I was out only for selfish pursuit. Now people need to build their wealth. They need to
Hmm.
build their legacy, and so don't hear me wrong with that. But if that's where your heart is, there's a big difference. If all your heart is after is wealth instead of the ability to share with others too, it can lead to that greed obsession that I had. And
Yeah.
we don't want that.
Hmm. I tell you, because it's really a lot, and that is like real grief to grace, because God
Yes.
did a lot. And when you talked about the broken heart, because sometimes people don't associate grief with being brokenhearted. When you're brokenhearted, like you said, there are a lot of stuff that you just end up doing without you thinking through what you're doing. And you were able to share some of these experiences. And I know if there must be someone out there who may be experiencing something and you feel it's just too much for you and you're brokenhearted. Maybe somebody um, offended you. Maybe you feel you cannot forgive. Maybe there are just so much because that you've been through and you feel that's all that can happen. But today you've heard of Nick's story that when you're brokenhearted, it can help lead you to being selfish. And when you're selfish, it can lead you to prison. It can lead
That's
you to make the wrong choices. And I tell you, Nick's story reminded me of mine. When I was brokenhearted at some point in my life, so at different points in my life, and I had those broken hearts, and I remember so well. That was why I felt I was like, oh my gosh, this is really like hitting me real hard. I made so many wrong choices. And if
mhm,
looking back today, if I had a way to turn back the hand of time, I would do things differently. And
right.
I don't want to be the people, use our own lives to be the example. You know, we want to be, we want to listen to people's stories so that we will learn from them. And also, the whole essence of this is when we hear like Nick's story, we are uplifted. I was down. My my husband passed 3 years ago, and I felt I lost it all, and I felt I could not move on. Right now, hearing Nick's story that he came out of incarceration, which means he lost everything. He started afresh. It was a fresh start for him. And in 2.5 years, God has done so marvelously well in his life because, according to him, he was genuine. He was truthful to himself. He acknowledged what he did, that it is wrong, and he decided to make a U turn. You too can do that today.
That's it. You
You
can.
You can. There is nothing that is impossible. You can take a U-turn. You've gone so far. Maybe right now you think you've gone really, really deep into what you're doing and you feel you cannot take a U-turn. I tell you, stop right now, stop and turn back. Return back to where you're coming from. Take the right path because that is the best thing to do at this time. And as if Nick, you knew, as if I knew some what we were going to talk about today. Today, like I'm just hearing your story of adoption, separations, and all that. Somehow, somebody sent me a reel this morning, and if you go to my page, you'll see it there. I posted it, and I was like, whoa, and it's in line with adoptions and separations and the grief, different kind of grief that people go through when they go through adoptions and when they're separated from their loved ones.
Do you
Sometimes,
do you
yes,
want to hear a cool story about that? It's
yes,
sad as well.
yes, I
Okay.
want to.
My first wife was Kim again. That's the person that really broke my heart. But we married twice. She was
Hmm,
adopted, and she had been adopted by a Catholic family in Erie, Pennsylvania. And when I was a pastor, she wanted to find her birth mother so badly and never could do that. She was unable. I was unable to find her birth mother for her. While I was incarcerated, though, they finally reconnected. And this year, unfortunately, my ex-wife passed away as well as a drug overdose. Less than 2 weeks after my Carnegie Hall recital, I got that news, and her birth mother, who I spent 6, 7 years looking for, reached out on Facebook, and I'm going to be meeting the mother of the wife of my youth
hmm,
here next month, and she's coming down to Florida. But just there's sadness all around that situation because, Kim always wanted to know what was going on. Her mom didn't receive, her adopted mother didn't really want her. And, it was just those rejection things that I knew I'd felt. And yeah, but it's so cool as well to be able to meet her birth mother and to know that they reconnected prior to her passing, and that there was some happiness in that relationship for a while does give me joy and
Yeah.
hope for those that are looking for those parents, because they were able to reconnect and there was a happy story there.
Yeah. Because it comes with a different kind of grief, I tell you. I
Yes,
work
yes.
with kids in foster homes, and I understand some of those grief that they go through, especially when they have to be moved from one home to another. And at the end of the day, maybe some of them have been in 5 homes. They get into drugs, they get into a lot of stuff. It's so pathetic sometimes. Some are lucky though because they get into better homes, but most majority of them are not because they are grieving and they tend to put up some attitude in those homes and they never find the best part of themselves. So I'm so grateful you shared that story. Just took me back like, oh, God really wanted us to talk about this part of grief today. God really wanted somebody out there that needs to hear this, that don't worry, irrespective of what you're going through. Maybe you lost contact with your parents, with because of separation with your siblings and all that, and you ended up in a foster home and you were adopted or whatever. There is still hope for you. When you look at Nick's story today, and you see Nick, then tell yourself, I can be good. I can do
Absolutely.
I want to do. I can be great. I will not allow myself to be stuck. I'll have to move from where I am to the place I want to be. So that is because it's really something that people need to watch. And also, I think the government needs to look at that too, and everyone, and even we, the parents, too. Let's try as much as possible to do the right thing so that we don't put our children through those kind of grief at the end of it all.
That's
So
it.
when
And if you are that parent, don't feel so much guilt that you don't seek your children out. I'll tell you, even if they can't be in your life at this moment, they're never going to forget that you were fighting for them. And
yeah.
and praise God, I am in contact with two of my children. I got to see
Ooh.
one of them graduate high school. The other one just turned 16. My oldest is in college. I mean, it's not what we visioned when they were born. Absolutely not. But I don't give up. I
Yeah.
don't give up. And I tell you, don't give up. If you don't have contact with your kids right now, pray. Don't
Yeah.
do everything yourself. Pray. I got to tell you, the person that I brought in as a business partner, listen to this. We were connected in Toastmasters, and then I brought her in. She was at my TED Talk, other events. We were sitting down having lunch one day with one of my other associates, and a conversation came up. Long story short, Ruth, she was the college roommate and best friend of the woman that adopted my children 3 states
Ooh.
away. 3 states
Wow.
away. 3 states.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And here's the thing, the adoptive parents, they are a pastor and a wife, but they don't want anything to do with me even still, and I'm okay with that. But they do allow the kids to make the choice when they get to be 15.
Hmm.
And so every single one of them are saying, yeah, my dad was cool. So
Thank God. I'm so happy to hear that.
yes, so I want you to hear, that's the rest of the story. There's hope if you don't give up. You got to
Yeah.
knock on the door. You got to
Hmm.
knock.
You really need to knock on that door because Jesus said that when we knock, he will open, right?
And
When we ask,
ask. If
And
you
so
ask enough, it may not be that the people you're asking reply to you initially, but when you ask, eventually you're going to get an answer either way.
that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. Thank you so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I appreciate this part of it because I think this is one part God really needs to talk about because He's healing the brokenhearted in the hearts of those who feel they are lost, who feel they can find their bearing, who feel they can never find their parents, or they can never be great because they were adopted. Don't worry, you will, and God will make it happen for you. I
Amen.
really thank
Amen.
so much, Nick. I'm so
Thank
happy for
you,
the
Ruth.
testimonies. I'm so happy because God has been awesome. And you have like three takeaways you want to give to our audience today.
Absolutely. Forgive. Number one is forgive. In grief, there must be forgiveness for you to go to that next level. The second thing is to own it.
Hmm,
Own it. Own it. But don't stay there. Don't stay in that ownership position, because after you own something, you can give it up. And that's it. It's a gradual process, it's never over. But own your grief and then slowly begin giving it up. The third thing is legacy. What remains after you begin giving it up is legacy.
hmm,
Think about that person's legacy, but think about your own, because you're leaving your legacy each and every day.
hmm,
In each and every place you go, you have your imprint,
hmm.
and you have the choice to not affect anything, to make a positive change or a negative change.
That's true.
So it's all about the legacy. Let the grief, acknowledge the grief, slowly let it go. What remains is legacy. Those are my three takeaways.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nick, for sharing your incredible journey with us. Your story of resilience and redemption is truly inspiring. I
Thank
am
you.
grateful. I am happy to have you here. And I know that you will come back again someday
Yes,
to share
please let
another
me know. I would love that, and we look forward to having you on the Art of Encouragement soon as
Yes,
well.
I will. I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have
So
a great day.
yeah, so today I just want us to, before we go, don't forget that you must embrace your journey no matter how difficult it is, because as each step is, so also you are. Then secondly, also know that you must use your talents like Nick did, because his talent is what took him out. So use your talents and your passions to find purpose and healing in any situation that you belong and you find yourself. And thirdly, transform your moments of doubt into the stories of success. I would like to leave you with one Bible verse today, and that Bible quotation that I'm going to give to you today is, He heals the brokenhearted
Amen.
and binds up their wounds. Can you imagine? I really didn't know. In fairness to me, I didn't know that we were going to talk about broken hearts. That means God is here and God sees what we are doing here. I
And
tell you.
you heard me say right beforehand, I was led to pull that out. And
Yes.
that's what it centers on, is the broken heart.
Yes.
Because that's true grief in every sense of the word, is when our hearts are broken.
Yeah. So that's Psalm 147, verse 3. So if you feel God is not here, I tell you, God is here. Take every moment serious and take it as a moment of healing every day as you go. So remember, we have our giveaway for those who participate in all of our discussions. And today's question is, what steps have you taken to transform your grief into grace? So share your answers with us and you will receive the free workbook. And also, if you purchase this book, a copy of my book, you will get a 30 minutes coaching session with me, and also with together with the workbook. But don't forget to subscribe and follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all of our podcasts. And I tell you, together we'll move from being stuck in our grief into finding grace. So, Nick, please, can you share your how they can reach you, maybe on your website or
Absolutely. You
your
can, yeah,
podcast?
you can search for me on Facebook. It's Nick Patterson Piano. I've got over 10,000 followers there. And I do a weekly concert on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hmm.
Excuse me, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I apologize. 7 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays. I play for 30 minutes live and I take requests. Can you
Whoa,
imagine that? You just put in the chat what you would like to hear. And if
wow.
you go through, I will play it right there for you. Also, if you want to go to my website, it's nickpatterson.com, Nick without a K, Nic Patterson.com. Or you can also go to NicNacCreative.com, NicNac Creative.com. If you want to find me, you can. If you type in my name, I'm all over the internet. Let's connect.
Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us today. I know we had a very awesome time today, and I am
Absolutely.
excited because every day God keeps renewing Himself and making me realize that this
Amen.
and you must take it to the next level. Please share, help me share, keep sharing, keep sharing. I want to thank all those that have been sharing. I want to thank all those that have been following, those sending DMs. If you want to be part of this podcast, you want to share your story, you can DM me on Ruth Hepzibah and I will definitely respond to you. I love you so much. And one last word from you, Nick, then we gone.
I want you to know that no matter what you've lost, no matter what hasn't happened, and no matter how much your heart has been broken, that today you are worthy of love. You're worthy to have your dreams come true. You are worthy because God knows you by name and He calls you out of darkness into marvelous light. Now go and shine bright and let others know about this hope that you didn't have before, this hope and this grace that's marvelous and it's out of this world. He said, my peace, I leave you, peace that you can't find in this world. So take that peace and be inspired to have your dreams come true today.
I have an option to pray for these listeners today. I don't know if you want to pray for them.
Absolutely. Lord, we thank you for those who are brokenhearted because they are your people. You say, blessed are those who mourn. So today we lift up those who are mourning broken hearts, broken dreams, broken lives, the loss of loved ones, the loss of careers. We ask you, Lord, to hold them in your hand right now, to call them by name, to give them peace and to speak new life to them, Lord. We ask you to heal their broken hearts.
Hmm.
In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So join us again next time, and I love you.